Good morning, Professor Sheth. Very warm welcome to you, and we are very pleased to have you in our studio. So, just for our audience, I would like to give an introduction, though you don't need any introduction as such. You are a Padma Bhushan Awardee by Government of India for your excellent contributions in the field of marketing, especially in the field of marketing for better society. And you have authored more than 7 or 8 books, and the latest one being The Sustainability Edge, which is actually giving a new paradigm to various organizations to include sustainability in their day-to-day culture. And you are also having 55 years of experience of teaching of marketing, and you are a professor at Emory University, and you have delivered hundreds of lectures across these years in various international and national locations. So very, very pleased to have you with us. So may we start now?
Thank you, Gayatri, for inviting me, and I'm meeting you virtually for the first time, and I'm glad that you are the interviewer.
Thank you, sir. So without losing any momentum, I just wanted to start off with your story. So since you are a person who has actually evolved through the course of marketing as well, so I would like to know, how did you get into marketing, and from marketing, how did you move into the field of sustainability?
My involvement in marketing is by accident only.
Okay.
The best things happen out of necessity more so than anything else. My interest always was in motivation.
Okay.
Science or psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And what motivates people, or how do you motivate people? That was my interest. And I was going to be primarily going into the leadership field. I was working with a professor in the leadership field at University of Pittsburgh, where I was doing my doctorate. And I was already engaged before coming to America. I wanted to have my fiancée come because I decided to do my doctorate, 2-3 years, whatever it takes. And in order to her, I had to earn $400 per month income in my days, 1962. And I could only earn $287.50 for my stipend as a doctoral student. And so I needed extra income. So I was looking around, who will give me extra income as an additional research work. And it turned out to be a marketing professor whose name was John Howard, very eminent professor. He was an economist wanting to learn behavioral sciences, and I was in behavioral sciences. And that's how I ended up in marketing, not from a selling viewpoint, but from understanding psychology of customers.
That's brilliant. So how was that experience relating to whatever you applied later in your scholarly career?
I think it has been wonderful. In many ways, I'm glad that by sheer accident or necessity, I went into marketing. There were not too many professors in marketing of Indian origin at that time.
Right.
I was one of the earlier ones.
Right.
And the field needed a new perspective. In marketing, you needed a new perspective. We had a great marketing effort, but it was more product-driven. After World War II, there was a huge pent-up demand in America and, of course, all of the Western countries. Germany was destroyed, Japan was destroyed. They all had to rebuild the economy, and also the consumers now were very willing to spend money on appliances, on automobiles, key durable items. And therefore, marketing was more important now. Marketing origin comes primarily from consumer packaged goods, as we call it, or FMCG in India. Yeah. That is the origin of marketing practices, But it takes more the promotion approach, as opposed to finding motivational approach. So I began to work in this field, and I found that some of the theories in economics were not appropriate for marketing from a consumer psychology viewpoint. Because in economics, basically it says that to be a rational consumer or a customer, you must look at choices, look at the pros and cons, make the trade-off, and ultimately make a choice. Whereas in marketing, what we find is that we are primarily driven by habit. So we are in the process of choice reduction, not choice making. Fundamental shift in the paradigm.
Absolutely.
So how do consumers reduce choice or multiple choices? Now, that doesn't sound too much of a problem in India. Under license rights days, there was no choice. You just had an ambassador car or a Fiat car. I had to wait like 7 years to get my telephone. My brother who waited like, 6-7 years for a scooter, like a Bajaj or a Vespa kind of a thing. So suddenly now we have an economy that has too many faces, like the Western world. And that became the genesis of my interest in marketing. How do consumers reduce choices, and how that is important for marketers to understand so they can market more efficiently and more effectively.
Great. So how did this element of sustainability caught your interest, and how did you transcend into, marketing for a better society?
Sustainability actually is much older, and it comes from two pieces of information in my life. I'm a Jain by birth as a religion. And in Jainism, there's a very strong philosophy of non-possessions, minimalist lifestyle. In fact, all of us tend to be vegetarian by definition. The ecosystem in the world and the nature is a very powerful force. Man should not intervene in that one and take advantage of that one, should not exploit it, should coexist essentially. And that's very fascinating. So it comes from the background of being a Jain. The absolute non-violence, for example. So we even today don't kill bugs in the house. We pick it up and throw it out. And our neighbors are all Americans, and they think it's a very weird behavior. That's not how we should be behaving. When you are all, you should take advantage. So this whole notion of interdependence with the ecosystem was very important. Came from the early childhood socialization by family and the faith. It also came when I went to college. I went to Loyola College in Chennai, Madras. I went to Jain College first 2 years and then 3 years in Loyola College. And in those colleges, there was an economic geography professor who talked about the economics and the climate. And I got fascinated. And I suddenly realized that climate has got a lot to do with sustainability.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that connection stayed in my mind. At that time, of course, we were exploring every field. I'm studying accounting, statistics, history. Most influential subject for me has been history. I love history, especially people.
It's very interesting. How does history and marketing, taste connect?
History is always universal. It's just like Einstein's equation. It's everywhere. So you have to have a perspective in history. There are lessons from history we can learn, both mistakes mankind has made. So that was a latent knowledge base or exploration that I began to now articulate more and more in marketing, because I found that as we consume more and more, the world is not sustainable. My interest into sustainability and sustainable marketing came in more recently, about 15, 20 years ago, when I started to do more research in emerging markets. And as emerging markets like China, India, and Africa eventually all change from the unbranded consumption to branded consumption, buying from unorganized sector to organized sector, will put so much of pressure in terms of manufactured products that the earth cannot reproduce itself. And that led me to say that marketing may be actually doing self-destruction over time. That marketing has to become mindful about what they do as their own survival, essentially. It's very fascinating, as we have seen with the carbon footprint, for example. And most of the manufacturing was done with no understanding that large emerging markets like China with 1 billion people, India with 1 billion people, Africa together as a continent, 1 billion people, if they buy branded products rather than make themselves at home, will put an enormous pressure in the short run, and therefore will run out. The renewal nature of nature is just not sustainable. And that led me into this area, a little more of interest into sustainability.
Very cool. So here that brings me to the next question, that since most of the organizations who have been, say, veterans in marketing, and I'm sure you know what are those organizations. So when we compare them with smaller players, so in most cases, there could be a situation where, a smaller player, a smaller brand has a better solution. For example, a soap maker who is coming up with an aloe vera soap. Maybe they are going through a more sustainable process, and maybe their product is also more sustainable, and, the life cycle cost is less, life cycle impact is less. But still, due to the, deeper pockets that these bigger corporates have, like Unilever and all, their brands will definitely have an upper edge when it comes to creating that marketing impact. So how do we tackle that problem when it comes to, branding sustainability?
Yeah. There are 2 or 3 possibilities. The most common possibility today, given that we have almost a universal e-commerce platforms in most countries, especially in emerging markets like India or China, going direct to the consumer, what's called DTC, is the best solution. Selling directly to the end consumers, because the gatekeeping mechanism by middlemen, where you compete with, obviously, for space, etc., with bigger companies, and you don't have the resources to do that anyhow, going directly to the consumer using the e-commerce platforms would be the one clear strategy. It works very, very well.
Okay.
Because the cost of reaching the end consumer is a lot lower. You preserve your margins at the same time, and you can actually use, in America, for example, we have a separate platform like a eBay type, which is called Etsy.
Okay.
All craft people who have hobbies, and they say, let me make some commercial thing out of the hobby that I have. I have a unique formula of some sort. I like it, people will like it, kind of a notion, and they all use Etsy as a formula, as a platform.
How do you find that? Etsy stands for?
ETSY, Etsy. I don't know. I've never figured out. But I buy soaps, as you mentioned, for example.
Right.
More, much more sustainable as an area. And usually I go directly to their website, and then the delivery is done by Etsy. Etsy does the payment system and everything. They are the middlemen. So direct to the consumer is one clear option.
Sure.
Second option is what actually Walmart founder talked about, Sam Walton. Everybody was looking at him to say, how can you go into a very small town and still make money? You have the giants like Sears on the one hand in retailing, and Kmart on the other hand, and you would say, hit them where they ain't, with an accent. That means go to places where the big boys will not show up.
Right.
Identify markets. And there are plenty of those markets, surprisingly. And we can learn quite a lot, because if there is one thing very good about India, uniqueness is that there are so many entrepreneurs.
True.
I like street foods in India. And every one of them is an entrepreneur. Every one of them has a recipe. I call it the Haldiwala phenomenon. Haldiwala make from a snack such a large business. Or we have in New Jersey in America, a company called Deep Foods, DEEP, Patel family. He made home chevda, which is a Gujarati, snack. Okay. People will rave about it, and they used to say, you must commercialize this thing. And finally the family decided it's a very large company, and they figured out a distribution went into the ethnic Indian population here, where the foreign multinationals from India were not willing to come or support them. So identify markets which are neglected by others.
Okay.
So that's very possible. The third option really is one that has been always used in agricultural products many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, is to create a cooperative. Which is alone cannot do it. And in India, again, we have a great example on Amul in dairies.
Right.
Each farmer is only 1.5 to 2 cows, actually a very poor person. Public grazing is the grass, so he does not have a feeding cost. Aggregating that small by small supplier into one major distribution company with Amul, and Amul is a world-class brand. Today, very few multinationals can compete with Amul. And I'll give two more examples so that we are very concrete.
Sure.
I've been amazed with Patanjali. We do have a market out there, which is Ayurvedic, but Ayurvedic is somebody who knows the Ayurvedic, has taken a course, has all the mixtures. He or she is controlling the knowledge, and without him, the shop will be dying. It's not branded product. So anything unbranded, if you can make it branded, there seems to be a market out there. And a Patanjali success clearly shows you can create from unorganized to organized, unbranded to branded, huge opportunity. And apparently it has become a pretty large, almost a multinational corporation now.
So Patanjali maybe could be one example which was probably able to grow till that extent. But I like this idea of cooperative. So do you think we can test out this idea? So maybe trying to connect the point 3 and point 1 that you just mentioned. The first one was about the e-commerce, leveraging that. So can we leverage e-commerce in order to create a cooperative sort of model for these smaller brands so that they don't lose their brand identity while also reach their target?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, certainly I see some entrepreneur thinking about, like Etsy around here, to say, let me organize a e-commerce platform independent of the cooperative movement even.
Right.
Because it's hard to get a cooperative going unless you are in the same region, and simply identify startup businesses with good products. Ultimately, in retailing, whether it's a brick and mortar or e-commerce, what matters is identifying the supply function, not the marketing function.
Right.
Not advertising. Its procurement is very important. So somebody can be smart enough as an entrepreneur to create, like Etsy, a platform, and they say, let me bring in unique products. There's a market out there through aggregation and through database management. I can give access to that market, which means as an intermediary, they will have enough volume, scale,
Right.
investment necessary in the software and the application, typically as we do, but today it's so affordable. So I can organize the whole thing. It's like a Flipkart for specialty boutique brands.
Right. So that also answers one of the questions that I was about to ask, that was about how the digital marketing has changed the landscape of marketing and how can that be leveraged for branding sustainability. Any other thoughts?
So I think again in many cases, marketing successes are by accident. It is not the plan that you had. I find new saying I have created in America, invent here, market there. Where you invented, it may not be the market that you thought about, but some other place there is a market out there. So it's the same thing. E-commerce, nobody thought would be more penetrating in rural, mid-town, small-town, tier 3, tier 4 cities in India. Why? It's very obvious when you think about it, because that is exactly where Sears Roebuck as a retailer, mail order company. Mail order is just like e-commerce today. It's done manually. Mail order business began because the rural population had no access to world-class brands. They have less access. Metros have more access by definition. Sheer density, willingness to pay, and all that stuff. So all of a sudden you find that in China, same thing with Alibaba, WeChat, and all those guys. In India with Flipkart and Amazon maybe, they have been able to reach the population rural. So to me, e-commerce may be the best platform. In e-commerce, you have to get the space, mindset of the people, so specialty e-commerce can be created, especially for the niche brands, or specialty brands. So that's clearly one to me. Go after those markets, surprisingly. And this is something will take about 2 minutes to explain.
Sure, please.
We take a software engineer in Bangalore, fresh graduate. He or she will make about, let's say, 10 lakhs rupees a year, right? But I don't know, whatever the number is. No, it's a little more than that. Somewhere around.
That's a standard. Let's go by that.
Okay, right. But he has no cash flow at the end of the month. Because usually it's a paying guest, they are staying, they pay 15,000-20,000 rupees just to rent a room.
Right.
All modern, therefore they have to have cell phones, they have to have, internet and everything. Young artists, so they are dating, trying to find significant other. So you have to go to clubs and, socialize.
Yeah.
There is no at the end of the month. Contrast that with a crane operator in Kutch Mundra port. Only a high school education with technical training. He's usually married, lives with his parents, has no rent to pay, and he has a wife who takes care of all the basic necessities in the family. He earns today about 85,000 to 90,000 rupees a month salary. He has more discretionary income than the metropolitan, well-educated software engineers. We have never thought about that one. It's not the income itself, but the discretionary income that you have. So the crane operator is saving money, hopefully saving money in immediate needs or wants becomes needs essentially. I must have a smartphone now rather than a feature phone. I should have a motorcycle, my livelihood, I want to show off to my people, I'm okay, kind of a notion, but also wants to invest in his children's education. Typical parental thinking.
Right.
That's where if you have a child at home, you can reach that market through e-commerce platform, much bigger market than metro market. Metro has other choices, whereas in rural market, you may be the only game in town.
Those nuances which are generally missed by the marketers, and they are just looking at urban versus rural, or maybe tier 1 versus tier 2, and not factoring into these, minor nuances which are making tier 2 market more attractive, perhaps.
Tier 2, tier 3, pretty much very small towns. So I'm not even thinking about, let's say, Madurai in south. They are bigger cities now. I'm talking about very small towns, maybe. I don't know the names now pretty much. Pune is too big now, for example, but Bangalore used to be a nice town, second tier, but it's not first tier. I would say thinking about starting with the third or the fourth tier, a town which is about 1 lakh population to 5 lakh population only, and there it's very easy to reach, surprisingly today. There is enough size in the market, and again, each market will be smaller, but also deliver a lot more volume combined together. Which is the Walmart thinking, and Walmart became the largest physical retailer, brick-and-mortar retailer, from small towns, and nobody thought that was a viable strategy. So e-commerce would be the place to market small niche brands with uniqueness of some sort.
Great. That really, gives a new paradigm to this whole concept of leveraging sustainability as your USP or unique value proposition, and also trying to identify new markets where your product will be gaining more advantage. So great. Another thing which connects to this point is this: when we talk about sustainability branding, according to you, which are those sectors where it has performed better than others? For instance, if we compare consumables with electronics versus, sustainable fashion for that matter. So how do we compare these sectors when it comes to branding?
There is no any one priority per se, but there's an overarching belief system. And true, the best place for sustainability is in the ingredients in a product making.
Okay.
Sometimes it is done by law. For example, hydrogenated oil, dalda we used to call it in India, has been found to be long-term negative. So they are phasing out by law. As an ingredient, it cannot be used, for example.
Right.
We have a salt, the same thing, chemical salt is being phased out gradually. So now we see all snacks and everything, sea salt, for example.
Right.
To me, sustainability element may come in where the industry is willing to change one of the two ingredients, which may not be good from a sustainability viewpoint. Government is willing to help them quite a lot in the process by changing the laws, requirements, nutritional labeling or whatever turns out to be. But to me, the best place for sustainability is in ingredients where there is no branding visibility. Just the opposite of what we think. And there are a bunch of things happening right now. It is happening in durable products like automobiles. Many laws have driven from a sustainability viewpoint now, for example. Carbon emission footprints, for example, quite a lot. I worked way back when lead-free gasoline was introduced. General Motors created a catalytic converter, had a monopoly, and of course oil companies began to offer lead-free gasoline, for example. Now we have the hybrid gasoline. All of that is something that is not brand-oriented, but an ingredient-oriented. To me, that's where the biggest change will happen from a sustainability viewpoint. Whether it's in packaging, for example, ingredients, for example, or it could be processing itself. Processing adds a lot of chemicals that may not be good from the environment, or cannot be good. To me, that's where the biggest opportunity is in sustainability. The second biggest opportunity in sustainability would be in very mundane products, highly consumables, which you repeat again and again.
Right.
Like a soap or a toothpaste. There are enough examples in earlier days, not a sustainability angle, but an ingredient angle. For example, a baking soda company comes up with a toothpaste, Arm & Hammer as a name, and became number 2, number 3 brand again, all the major ones, because it was satisfying a need or a want, that
Right.
other companies were not able to do, or they were not willing to do it. So that helped. So I would say that is one place. In the higher socioeconomic class, clearly something that's visible. As you would like to show that I'm supporting sustainability as a consumer, that
Right.
my consumption is sustainable. In that case, the fashion industry is the best one. And the reason for industry is that you do have very large number of celebrity influencers.
Right.
Influencer marketing is growing with or without celebrity now. Ordinary people doing some YouTube video suddenly get a multi-million people, millions of people following them, and
Right.
suddenly influencers. So I'm very fond of influencer marketing as a leverage from a sustainability viewpoint, which will come from very visible products, two extremes. Ingredients totally invisible, there is a much bigger market, and there will be some select market for very visible, whether it's a fashion, whether it's a jewelry, or whatever visible it is, where there's a conspicuous consumption where I want to show to the world that I am for sustainability.
So that also connects with the point that you earlier mentioned, that was about, connecting these dots and trying to take it to the different tier marketing levels, because sustainability fashion could be one of the areas where maybe celebrity may not be even needed for that matter, because an influencer from a tier 2 or tier 3 place can actually become a celebrity and try to promote something. I'm thinking aloud of an example where a tribal community could come up with a sustainable fashion idea, maybe a jewelry product or something, which is not ever seen or known by others, and take that as a...
Yeah, no question. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Many of the traditional products we make at home,
yeah,
with a sustainability angle, if there is one, or add sustainability angle, can become large mass markets. For example, pickles have done that already.
Right.
Pickles are today packaged, marketed, homemade pickles in many ways.
Yeah.
In Gujarat, we consume papad.
Yes.
So
That's consumed all over India, I think.
Yeah. So Lijjat papad is basically women working at home, giving them livelihood. Somebody knew how to organize it properly.
Yes.
Fab India has done something similar,
Right.
So I think somebody who can say, and by the way, best example I forgot to mention, I should remember, is Jaipur rugs.
Absolutely.
I met the family, and they employ 40,000 artisans, all basically people who need livelihood. They're not very educated in the rural population, and their product is from a different angle, not an environmental angle, but it's a sustainability angle there. And people buy because it is made by people who
That
need
is
livelihood.
also creating impact, the kind of impact that they desire.
So there are many, many examples. India is full of these examples. It's a question of documenting, articulating, compiling, and curating the whole notion, and hopefully pushing this knowledge into colleges and universities.
Okay.
Is that it's not colleges and universities. This knowledge ought to be communicated when children are in primary or secondary school. It should be very early socialization.
The notions have to change at that tender age.
Exactly. It's like anti-smoking. You
Right.
teach kids in the school smoking is bad for you, then they go and put pressure on their parents not to smoke, because smoking comes from family to family, essentially, in many ways. I think there are so many options to create sustainability as a move. What is not possible, what is not good from a sustainability viewpoint or a marketing viewpoint is to do greenwashing. Don't make claims that are not genuine. Just
Right.
because and unfortunately, businesses have a tendency to do that. And to me, that is a...
Bigger brands have also done that and failed miserably, because it doesn't last long.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right. So I learned many years ago from someone, I don't know who it was, that branding, you can neither manufacture the brand, nor can you make it, buy it in the marketplace. You got to earn it.
Earn it, absolutely.
It has to be genuine, offering a genuine benefit from a sustainability viewpoint.
Right.
And that will work very, very well. In fact, I have a doctoral dissertation right now going on in America at my university She has finished her defense proposal right now, and she has done all the experiments to show very clearly that big companies, without really meaning it as CSR approach, actually fail. Consumers see through, they become skeptical, and then they don't pay attention to them. They basically ignore the message, pretty much. So I think ultimately what matters in sustainable branding marketing is authenticity.
So how can a media platform in this situation be rescuing this problem, rescuing these brands and come as a solution for them?
Exactly. Media may be a great friend and a partner in this area because media usually comes from journalism tradition, which says, go for the truth. Make sure you double check. That's the ethical standards of a journalist primarily. Right. And given standard, they will be skeptical anyhow. So once you win them over, they believe you are a genuine, they become your ambassadors. You don't need any influencer marketers even in that case. They will promote it and they will give you the space in the print media. They'll give you the space on broadcast media and of course now on streaming media and on YouTube and everything place, whatever channels they have, and they will give space for this one because journalists are trained more from liberal arts, humanities. Very few journalists are trained in business. So the ecosystem itself is more, how can we serve the society? That seems to be like the purpose or the motto of journalists. If you look at them, and they put themselves in danger quite often. And I'm saying there's a great channel here for the agency that can do a wonderful job. If you have the right product, they can become your best ambassadors. And journalism likes to share stories, which means if it is in one magazine or it's on one channel, you immediately see now.
20 other channels also.
Exactly. So it amplifies very quickly. Your message can spread very quickly if you have the genuine message.
So any concluding thoughts or message or advice that you would want to share with various brands that are listed with us or even those who will be listening to this interview? How can they carve out their branding strategy which is anchored on sustainability?
A book I wrote with my colleague Raj Sisodia called Forms of Endearment, which has led to a conscious capitalism movement more broader. One of the things we found is that what matters in a successful business is purpose.
Right.
Not profits. Profits is an outcome. So if you're a purpose-driven company, it is not good enough to do CSR after making money in a wrong way, in the saying as a guilt feeling, or to counterbalance, let me give money to the community or wherever you do. I think it is more built into your DNA.
Right.
The book actually identified companies which have done very well in the stock market. I don't know, we have created this either-or proposition between sustainability and corporate profits. It is not a trade-off.
It's zero-sum game. Yeah.
We found that these companies 40% annual return as compared to good to great, which is only shareholder-driven company primarily. Why do they succeed financially so well? Jim Collins' book, which is a pretty good book actually, it only delivered 21% annual return over a 15-year cycle. 2 of the companies out of 11 actually declared Chapter 11 protection, like I went backwards. The companies that we chose are still continuing doing very well, actually have done better over time. And S&P 500 during that time was in about 9%. As a scientist or a scholar, I have to make sure that I'm honest with myself. So what I did was to create a stress test. 90s boom was there, second half of the 90s. Then there was a crash in the 2000s. Bubble busted. We had a 9/11, etc. Then there was a boom again before 2008 crash that took it. So we went through several cycles to show these companies survive, which means something about the purpose and passion of the founder or the company's DNA made them continue to survive. So it's a survival game.
Right.
It's very surprisingly good companies were always, in fact, I must tell you, I did a lot of research and I have a paper coming out. In the early days of industrialization, most companies were always located by the family if they were there in a small town, around a river typically. or a river basin of some sort.
Right.
You have to be where the raw materials were here. You build a factory town, essentially. At Whirlpool Corporation, where I was an advisor in Benton Harbor, Michigan, the chairman knew everybody and everybody knew chairman because they were neighbors. In church, to Christian church in this case, there is a great equalizer. No matter how wealthy you are, God is above you. You have to attend all the memorial services. Your employees are your neighbors. Their children or grandchildren go to the same school as you do. You have a community has invested in you. Community protects you, gives you all the public resources for your benefit in many ways. Local town people invested in shares which they never sold, like jewelry. Continued, passed on to the next generation because the company. How Coca-Cola began in a small town called Rome. Benton, General Electric. Actually, this got all corrupted. From 5 stakeholders, suppliers, employees, customers, community, and the investors, when the corporations began to relocate in the 70s in large capital markets like New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, etc., then you are too close to only one shareholder or one stakeholder, which is called the investor. And they're hounding you. You forget about the others. So some of our great corporations, even today, large ones, are in small towns. Kohler in appliances, the bathroom appliances, toilets, etc. Whirlpool is a large corporation. You have seen quite a few of these in Minneapolis and St. Paul, for example. You have seen the 3M company. They are not in capital markets. General Electric's biggest mistake was to relocate from there to New York. IBM was in Armonk, a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. The hierarchy that corporation creates is now flattened totally. Because you as a neighbors meet them, you chat, you talk. I found the same thing. My observation was at a very good campus towns. At campus towns, the president and the chancellor is your neighbor also. It's not your boss, you see. Interesting law. So that seems to work very well. So I'm a strong advocate that more and more headquarters should go away from capital markets, relocate into smaller towns, preferably where your people make your products, wherever it is, and it works. Surprisingly, I will deliver better shareholder value than ever before.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.